What is up, guys? Welcome to another FBA happy hour, I guess Labor Day edition. We got the big guy, Soros Empire Tim. He does $10 million in the last 3 years, I think, took you. Or is that the number?
We've hit 11 or 12 million rolling 12, but really the last 2 years were more around 8.5 a year. And then this year we're landing about the same.
Wow, that's amazing. That's crazy. So yeah, you're the biggest seller we've had on here so far, revenue wise. So crazy. You want to give everyone a little bit of background, kind of how you started, and kind of what you're up to now?
For sure. And to be honest, like when hearing like you're the biggest seller on this is like, it's the most bizarre sounding feeling. Cause I totally remember like it was yesterday. I was walking into a store and scanning a spatula at Marshall's and being like, this is never going to work. Like, what am I doing here? And just listening to this guy, Paul, I met, my first mentor. And he's just like, look, just everything, there's going to be all these challenges. You're always just going to say yes. You're not going to focus on anything bad. You're going to focus on, yes, I found something that's almost a good enough ROI, or I ungated a brand. And that literally just started snowballing. So yeah, my background is about almost exactly 4 years ago. I was a trader. I was a former CPA, really didn't like the corporate life. And I was trading and I got lucky in crypto in 2017 and then lost all of that. And I had a baby coming sort of accidentally. And I had to get kind of serious. So my girlfriend at the time who I was having the baby with introduced me to this guy, Paul, that she met at a Tony Robbins event. And she's like, this guy knows Amazon, just take a call with him. And I jumped on a call. I was very skeptical, but within a couple minutes, I'm like, this guy is doing this for real and he's not messing around. Like behind him, he could show his prep center, like that he had built in his house. And I'm like, there's something here. Like there's no way he's just mentoring people and he's built this whole prep center process in his house. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to this guy. And I think in that moment, I just decided I was going to listen to everything he said. When I really look back on it, which very few people in that time period I would give that to. And I did. And just for months and months and months, he's just like hammering just positivity. I'd be on the phone with him 3 hours a day, and not 3 hours a day, 3 hours whenever I wanted to call him, he would talk to me for 3 hours. Wow. But yeah, we started hitting the store RA. I'd go to outlets, I'd go to Marshall's, and it just picked up from there. And that positivity, you guys always hear me talk mindset. If anybody's on here that knows me, really just started snowballing.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, that's really interesting, like kind of saying like yes to everything, like yes, I'm so close, or yes, I found something, or just these little like momentum things. And it's like true. I feel like it is like really tough at times. Like, I mean, everyone had like issues with Amazon or trouble sourcing stuff. So it's always like, yeah, definitely got to stay positive all the time.
It's everything. Paul said, he's like, you go to these stores and it should feel like you're banging your head against the wall for the first 2 months. Like just period. Just keep saying yes. It's just going to feel that way. If it didn't, that would mean that there's no moat to get into this business. There has to be a part that is so annoying that 90% of people fail. Or 90% of people don't fail. They just quit. So that's what that is. And as much as I've taught Amazon since then, there's no replacement for sourcing. There's no trick to sourcing. There's tools and tricks, but like you have to go through the process. You got to put 5 hours in at a store. You got to put in 6 hours at a time online or 3 hours at a time. And then you eventually, the gears start turning, things start to open up and you start to see opportunity.
Yeah, no, that I get DMs all the time. People are saying, hey, I'm not finding anything. And my first question now is always like, how long do you spend? Like, how often do you source? And it's usually like, I went to like an Ollie's for like an hour. And I'm just like, yeah, like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, you got to go every day for like 2, 3, 4 hours or until you find something.
And online, so I noticed this in our recent batch of students. So one of the main things with my community and course, we were like, okay, sourcing is the hardest part. Let's provide a lot of stuff about sourcing. So if you come into my community, there's probably 30 videos of people either live sourcing, Amazon flips. There's so many creative ways to source. Well, I realized for some students, when they're sourcing, they're just trying all these different ways to source. Well, they haven't even tried a single one of them for an extended period. So I'm like, wait, no, the thing people need first is go online, go on Sierra.com and click on products and see if they make money. That's it. Do that for like a month. Don't try to reverse source. Don't try Amazon. Don't try any of this stuff. Just do one thing for a month and then get through the hard parts and then things open up.
That makes total sense. Jamie, 100% Soros helped my mindset and changed my business. That's awesome. You guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. I don't know how many people will be here because of Labor Day and all that kind of stuff. But so I guess when you're kind of, as you were saying that, so what would your advice be for someone like brand new, kind of like on the fence about getting started? Like, how would you kind of direct them?
I mean, it's going to sound like it's because I have a community, but it's not. I got a mentor right away. So you either need to get a mentor or a community. I would pick one thing and focus on that. So you have one information source of somebody that's done it. Maybe it's just watching your videos, John. Like find one voice, your primary voice that you're listening to, someone that knows what they're doing, and listen to a lot of the things they have to say. And then you really got to just get into a mode of producing and instead of consuming. So yes, you listen to what John has to say, but if John tells you, you got to get out and source. And the people that are successful consistently source. Well, make yourself a simple plan. People try to make these complex business plans. It doesn't need to be complicated. I've watched 1,000 people come through communities, and there's a small percentage of people that day in and out do the same stuff. Like right now, there's a girl in my community right now, and I think she was frustrated at the beginning at how little information I provided, because she saw all the stuff I posted on Instagram and, oh, I can't wait to actually join the community. It's going to be more. I feel like she was a little frustrated. Well, she went from 0, and in 5 months, she's doing $200,000 months of RA. 5 months. She did a $100,000 in July. Her name's Renee. I can tag her. And then she did 200,000 in August. I've never seen that and you know what? The only thing I can point, she has a baby, she has a job, her husband has a job, she has no time. But every single day she got to the store. Almost, she said 7 days a week. You don't have to do 7 days a week. You can do 4 days a week, but every single week. So she would post in the accountability channel, sourced 1,000, sourced 0, sourced 3,000. So for these entire 5 months, except for the last couple of months, she stopped posting because we all know how consistent she is. So it's so awesome to watch that. I love when people do that. And I'm like, how simple was it? And they're like, yeah, simple doesn't mean like easy. It's just, yeah, it's simple. You just have to keep going.
And I think that's like, I feel like a lot of people are getting confused as of late, where everyone's saying that like, oh, everything's like saturated. So I think they're trying to look for these like tricky like secrets or like special ways to source, and it's like, nah, if you just source every day consistently, like you'll figure it out.
Listen, you can always find, first of all, even if that was true, if things are saturated, there's zero reason for you to put that in your mind ever, unless you're like really evaluating different business models. But if you decided to do this for a couple of months, there is no reason that should enter your brain. It would never help with anything. This is saturated, so I should have that on my conscience. No, like you should have in your mind, this is abundant. And other people have done it, so I'm going to do it too. And I lost my train of thought. I had something very important to say there, but we're going to have to miss out on that one. It'll come back.
So you want to give us kind of a rundown what your business looks like right now, kind of your business model, like how you have it set up?
Sure. And I do remember what I wanted to say to the saturated comment. If anybody's followed me for the last year and a half, I've been very open about my issues. Like 2022, I had a tough year. We were breaking even a lot. This is the best margins and ROI I've ever seen in my company the last 3 months. So what is saturated about that? There's so many billions of dollars worth of product that you do enough reps, you start to get better than the competition. When something's saturated, it's saturated because there's money to be made there. Like being in a blue ocean industry, which is, Amazon 10 years ago, or maybe Walmart now, there's advantages. You might be in before other people, but there's 1/50th of the shoppers on Walmart. Like there's reasons it's not saturated. It's not that easy. So it's very hard to get into that perfect time where Amazon was probably 2020, 2021, where like you meet the point where people are making money, but it's not saturated yet. And then that gets blown up pretty quickly anyway. And then Renee, the girl I was just talking about, they're the biggest margins I've ever seen at this scale on an RA store because everybody wants to do OA. Everybody thinks it goes RA, OA, wholesale. Well, she's building a $3-5 million business RA. So there's the saturation thing gone.
It's just a cope. It's cope.
Cope.
It's whenever something's hard, they just say, oh, it's because it's saturated. I don't want to do it or whatever. It's never truly because it's saturated. It's just because somebody can't come up with a better excuse.
Yeah, 100%. So the way my stuff looks right now is I've got a 12-person team. 11 are in the Philippines. 1 is in Venezuela. I have a chief operating officer, Lou. And I think people may have heard my thing about VAs. I call them REs, remote employees. Like these are people with potential. These are like incredible people. And I used to say that with a little bit of like, I hope. And now I'm really seeing, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are literally, I'm watching my people be much better than Americans, much better than so because they've been in the game for 2 years. They're not doing anything that crazy. They're just showing up for work, keeping a good attitude, and, sourcing every day. So how many people do you know have done that for 2 years? So they're getting better and better. So I have a chief operating officer, Lou, who I think she joined me like a year and a half ago and just rose up the ranks. She was from Fast Track FBA's. She was from one of from that agency, and hired a variety of people through. I've probably been through 40 or 50 employees. Like I've had a 28-person store before, and I much prefer like a 10 to 12-person store because you can still throw everybody in a room and be like, guys, this is what we need to do. Everybody pull their weight. At 20, 25, it's so much more like you have to have systems and checkoffs and approvals and this boring corporate thing, which that's where like the Hormozis live, by the way. That's why they say, look, we'll take your business from 10 million or 5 million to 30 million because they know how to do all that. I tried that at a first shot and failed pretty miserably. And it's just, you got to think about what do you actually want to accomplish? And the reason we're at like 8 million is I don't need a $10 million store if we have a very awesome vibe going on and we're continuing to expand our profits and things like that. So I'm going to ask my chief operating officer at the end of this year, hey, do we want to go for 15 million next year? Do we want to go for 10? Do we want to like keep it at 7, 8 and just try to expand margins? What do you want to do? And I think she's going to give a pretty frank answer because I care about their health, their happiness, their schedules, because if we can be in a happy, healthy company where we're all, liking coming to work and everybody feels like they're hanging out with the smartest people they know, like they're just going to keep getting better at sourcing. They're going to be better than their competition. We don't need to push these crazy revenue goals and, leave things on the table because of that. So your original question was how my company was set up. Chief operating officer, I've got like 4 sourcers only, primarily sourcers, maybe 3 that are like full-time. One of them does wholesale, looks at wholesale sheets, and he will mess with our repricer. And then we've got head of warehouse reconciliation and account health, a girl that does eBay and Mercari. And then we have like 3 people that are just doing communication with warehouse, reconciliation, and just admin things.
Wow, that's crazy. I've been playing around a lot this year, particularly, not really pushing the revenue, but pushing like the profit. So like my sales are much lower, but like the ROI or like the actual money I'm keeping is much higher. And I'm kind of like in this mindset. It's like, like, I don't know. It just like clicked one day. I started actually sharing leads with someone. They're like, yeah, we don't go below 40%. I was like, okay. Yeah. Like that's it. And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to trade with him, I need to come up with 40% ones. Sure enough, like they're out there. And like, we just go back and forth. And I'm like, okay, like it really comes down to like coupons and sales and stacking. I was just being lazy and be like, oh, like do volume at 20%, and then like you get murdered.
Yep. ROI saves everything. You lose inventory, you get too many returns. If you have high ROI, that's handled. And you're dealing with less inventory, less chance of removals. There's
Yeah.
major benefits to operating smaller and bigger profits. So like I always say this, but it's not to impress you, but to impress upon you. I work 0 hours per week on my store the last month. I have another project going on. My Filipino team have been at a conference this past weekend for like 4 days that I set up, that I approved, and I don't even know what they're doing. Like, and that's because we kept the store at the right size. Like if you go for way too much, which you should push and see what you can handle, but then you get to a point where you're spending so much time maintaining the company and putting out fires that what's good for me, if I have a $10 million, $12 million company where I'm working 40 hours a week, how do I add new streams? I want to add a lot of different streams of income. And that sounds like a catchy thing and sounds silly. And it is silly in the beginning when people try to add 3 streams when they don't have any expertise. You got to focus. But as you get into higher levels of business, you have your business and you can pull yourself out of your business. You can sell that business. People want to buy a profitable business. Like I've talked to brokers about selling my Amazon store. So we can talk about that. And then I have time to get onto other projects. So it's the perfect size for me.
Let's go to that, because a lot of people say, oh, I want to do wholesale because that's a sellable business. OA is not a sellable business, or maybe RA is not a sellable business. So maybe go into that and kind of.
Yeah, this one's so easy for me, and this is easier before I was talking to business brokers, but now I literally speak to business brokers every couple of weeks because I want to know the value of my store. I don't want to sell my store. I posted a couple of times about it and my employees got scared. I'm like, guys, look, if we sell the store, you are the store. So like you're going to get golden handcuffed by whoever buys it. They're going to like give you a huge bonus to keep you. But I don't want to sell my store. I do want to know the value, because if I ever was in a pinch, I could sell my store. I know I have $1 million, multi-million dollar asset right here. But yeah, I speak with business brokers right away. They're like, we think we can sell yours for 2x. We can find a big e-com buyer. 2x isn't, people have dreams of selling 5x, 6x, but yeah, 2x of my, and that means 2x of my average yearly earnings. And that's without a lot of due diligence. And so I'm going to put my stuff out there and see what kind of hits I get. And I'm not selling it 2x. So I'm going to see if I can get 3x, 4x, and I still probably wouldn't sell because my team is too good that I feel like I can repurpose them. But the thing is, for selling a store, like you just need to not be the only person that does all the stuff in your store. No one wants to buy a store that relies on John to run every single part of the store. That doesn't make any sense. It'll just disappear the second they buy it, unless they're another Amazon seller and they're like, okay, I can take John's stuff and it won't take that much extra work. That's a possibility too. But that's the main thing. So retail arbitrage, I had a pretty much automated retail arbitrage business before mine became OA. I had 2 shoppers or 3 shoppers running routes, drop at the prep center, like, somebody reviews everything and it was automatically going. So my question to you is, that says you can't sell a store, why wouldn't someone want to buy something automatic making money? Like that's all this is. Amazon sellers are just so spoiled because this is not a real, they didn't have to do all the things people have to do to build a business. They didn't have to market. They didn't have to build a website. They didn't have to acquire customers. They're all freaking on Amazon. So because they're so spoiled and all they had to do is find cheap things, and that's hard. I'm not saying that's easy, but in terms of if you want to open a bakery, how much time are you baking? You're spending 98% of your time marketing, dealing with the lease, dealing with getting people in the door, dealing with your employees, all this stuff. Man, I'm just going off today. But they know that to sell that business, that has to be somewhat autonomous in a way. They don't want to bake. Nobody wants to buy a bakery that's run by one person. It can't be keep going. So that's the main thing. Most people are the genius necessary to run their business. And people have to start getting accustomed to, all right, this person coming up in my employees is looking pretty good. I think he can do what I'm doing here 80% as well. Let's see how he does, and empower people. And now you have a business that you've pulled yourself out of that you can say, and there's business interviews when you go to sell a business. Like, look, this is how it works. I'm not in this business. They take care of this. Oh, what about this? That's them. So that's how you can sell your business. And I'm seeing 2x for an Amazon store at my level, which, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I know you follow like Hormozy or whatever. I remember him like on one of his podcasts, he was saying that he was so far removed when they sold the one, his like CFO did the presentation or like the CEO. Like he was just there to like watch and answer questions. And he's like,
awesome.
He knows more of it than I know. Like he's the guy. Like you could ask me some questions, but like he knows.
That's where I'm at. My people are better than me at Amazon. They understand what's going on more. I look at KPIs like how fast our inventory is turning, how big our profits are. I look at the numbers every month and I motivate the COO. I just like, we talk mindset and that's it. And they definitely know more and they'd be able to present better on how it all works.
So what kind of KPIs do you have for the team?
I actually have it up. The main KPIs we have are pretty simple that people watching can use and just know if your store is healthy. And the really simple one is if you go to your inventory lab, most people in FBA should be using inventory lab. And you just divide your cost of goods sold into your sales. And I just use inventory lab for simplicity each time. So like, for example, in August, our cost of goods sold was 246,000 and our sales were 525,000. So that's a 0.47 ratio. I just know from experience that you want it in my business line, you want to keep it as close to 0.45 as you can. And above 0.5, you're getting closer to break even. So all that tells you is your profitability. So the one other, I'll give you two more. One other important one is sales to inventory. So still in inventory lab, you take your sales. So our August sales are 525K. And we divide it by our average inventory. So all you have to do is go to your reports, inventory valuation, and just take a snapshot each week and get the average. So you might have, August 1st, 450,000, August 7th, 480,000, and you just average out 4 or 5 weeks. So what that's trying to tell you is your inventory turn. Based on having approximately 450 grand in inventory throughout the month, we did 525,000 in sales. That's a ratio of 1.2. So you want that one to be higher. So generally we want to be 1.2 or better there. So right there, that tells me I have a healthy store. If that thing's getting close to 1, if my profitability is getting close to 0.5, like I'm getting closer to break even, I got to make serious changes. It can also point you to like, if it changed from month to month, maybe something in your repricer happened. Maybe you started selling things. It really points you to a lot of different things. And the only other thing to look at is really in Amazon's reports. You want to make sure your excess inventory is clearly below 5%. I like it below 2%. And your 0 to 180 should really be 99%. You should you're on your aging. So you really should be looking at your 0 to 90 and you want that 90% or better.
Because those are, I feel like no one talks about those numbers at all.
I didn't get rid of old inventory
of that calculation either. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna watch this back and go do that right now.
I'm happy to share. Yeah, I can share you what I do off the call if you want to share it with your viewers. Cool. But yeah, the aging is one thing I didn't handle for like the first 2 years of Amazon. So, oh yeah, I'm making great profits on inventory lab, stockpiling a bunch of dead inventory. And if you're not getting some of that out every month, you have some pain to pay later. So you always want to be taking after 90 days, you should have sold in 90 days for the most part. So the easiest thing is just drop price. You can drop your minimum to 0 and just match lowest FBA price after 90 days. That's the easiest way to just get rid of stuff on an ongoing.
Oh, so you put your minimum at 0 and just let it
ride, but you don't undercut. You just match the lowest FBA.
Oh, got it.
If that's not doing it, then you can undercut a little and you have to change the min, or you can, just kind of manually go in there and see what's going on. What do we need to price this at?
Yeah, do you have any? I'm actually on a listing now. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it basically lost the buy box. And like everyone has like a ton of stock, and I'm like trying to liquidate it. And like I'm setting like manual pricing. Like I use Aura, so like it keeps going down, but then like someone will match the lowest and like go lower than me. I'm just like, I have so much of this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need to get rid of it.
And sometimes that's just the case. You just participate in that terrible price war and you just
Yeah.
take the L. It just there's so much to gain to get that off your conscience. Like this is gone and I can just move on to the
Yeah.
inventory. You will never you lose a grand on this or $500, like you'll never think about it again. Just like you feel like it's, oh, I'm losing on this. I got to sell at the perfect price. But no, once it's gone, you're moving on. I learned that from
Yeah.
trading. Like trading, just like market close, get out of your position and move on to the next one.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. That, and it's like, I never want to be in this position again. It was one of those where it's like, I test bought well and then went hard and then went just a little too hard that like second time around. And it kind of looked like, it'll be all right. And like, I got crushed.
This is an example of, yes, I'm glad this happened because I learned this for the next time. This is all just data that's improving your next buy. So nothing in business is a no. It's always yes, unless you blew you went bankrupt. Besides that, it's like, yes, this one stings super hard. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I know I'm going to learn it this time. And I know I'm going to get it right the next time.
Yeah, I did a lot of testing the last couple of months and like just going through all the ones that didn't work out. It's so clear why they didn't work out. And these are stuff that has like no buy box or like the sales rank is weird. And it's like, okay, like when there's no sales rank or buy box, like reviews really matter a lot. And like it should be over at least 200 reviews that it's like getting going up. Anything under 100 is like terrible. It's like just not moving. But like you don't know that until you test it because like not a lot of people are testing it.
No, that's great. Like we don't do anything like that. And I can like that's a huge edge if I'm sure if you hit those because nobody's playing around with like 99% of people won't touch something with no sales rank, and you know that you can touch it. So if you nail one, like you'll have a much longer play at that product until it gets figured out, right?
Yeah, and that was also like the bigger learning too. It's just like for ones like that, like I usually just test by 10 automatically. It's like for those, I'm just gonna buy 3, and like if it works out, that's great. Because there's some, they're just hard to liquidate. Like if they don't move, it's like so hard. So I'm like, you know what? Just buy 3. You'll find out. And if you wish you bought more, like that's great. You can do it later on.
Yeah, that's great that you do that. I think a lot of people probably get stuck in like, oh, I can't lose on this. So you can really get in trouble. I remember teaching my team this, like the attitude of not ever being able to lose, you're going to have so many losers. Like this has to be a sure thing. Well, everyone's buying the sure thing. This is like the thing about Amazon. I say it's so easy, so simple. Well, once you get into it, it's not that simple because your sourcing department, you or your sourcers, you're a risk analysis team. You're making the best risk assessment on a product. That's not just completely like the most simple thing. There's so many different factors. And yeah, if people on your team don't understand that, look, this risk reward makes sense. We've seen these no sales ranks make sense and work for us. And putting in $100 that might be a 50% shot, we completely have to lose that $100. We can't even liquidate it. Could turn into $1,000 in profit because it worked, and now we can buy this thing. Like having those conversations with your sourcers over a couple years or even over a few months, really give your VAs that stuff, and that's how you become a competitor in the Amazon space. That's not just you running it, right? It's your people, and people need to be aware that they're not a freaking genius. Just because it took them some time to figure this out, you might be able to teach this to a guy down the line. They could take your knowledge and learn it in a third of the time and improve upon it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I got stuck this year. Was I kind of let all my VAs go, and I'm just like, I'm gonna make a playbook, and then kind of do exactly what I'm doing now. My business looks so much different. I was like trying to do it together, and it was just so hard to teach. And one of the things probably one of my biggest takeaways from that is like, I find it like hard to train them how to source. It's better for me to like say like, this is why I like this product. Like this is what makes it good. And it's just so much easier instead of beating them up for what they submit. Like not beating them up, but like it's like, hey, this is what I like. Like this is what's going on. Like let's get more of this stuff. Like I want to see keepographs like this.
A couple things. So it is a good challenge on how to impart your wisdom on a VA, on a RE, on a VA. Like one thing that really helped me when my company was in trouble like a year and a half ago, and like I don't know what we were buying. We just pumped the brakes. We're like, I don't care how much we buy. We were buying 550,000 a month of junk, like overall a loss. We pumped the brakes. I said, look, I don't care if we buy $5,000 a week. I don't care how low it goes. Top tier leads only. So like we just started like just from ground zero. And I had to think through like, all right, what made me successful in Amazon when I started? What was I learning when I was first at the store? And what did I learn those first 6 months? And one thing that I came up with was I was like, okay, here's a big problem with probably most people's sourcers. They find good leads and they submit them and then they're done. There's very much like they have no skin in the game, so they don't have to learn from their leads. So they're just always learning like how to impress John on the front end. They don't ever learn like the ramifications or like the next level. So I was like, okay, how can we systematize this in a company? And I had a bunch of ideas that I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And some of them actually worked. And I was surprised. Like, so we forced people to post, like before they even gave a lead, they had to post a paragraph about the lead and why it was a good lead. So they had to sit there and explain more. It couldn't just be like good sales rank. It had to be like an additional edge. Like we think we got it cheapest because this, or like offers are declining, or like something that's additional to like just sales rank and ROI. And then someone from the team had to respond before that lead could get posted. So so we forced discussion and thought process on the leads. Because when I was buying things, I was thinking through all this stuff. So that was one thing. And by the way, we're still doing that to this day. They kept it. I thought like over time they'd get so good that they'd be like, we don't need this. But they still do it for every lead, a discussion around the lead, and then they post. So then we buy the lead, and then like each sourcer has to, I think 5 a day, has to write, it's like a report on sales, on things that came through and sold. So they have to look at the orders and say, this sold, and I think we did a good job sourcing it because of this reason. Or I think this sold at a loss because we shouldn't have bought it because of this. So we systematized, we made them learn from what actually happened.
So smart.
That is smart.
What's up?
I said that's so smart.
It looks smart now. And when we were putting it in, I was like, man, it's so clunky. How are we ever going to like, buy some leads? And I think I'm missing a piece, but it'll come to me. But like that was because what I did when I was starting is I would think through it, I'd buy it. And then I would look at every single order on my phone, and every single order that came through, I would click on it. I would highlight the ASIN in my MSKU, because on Inventory Lab, if anybody doesn't have that, you can have the ASIN in your MSKU, highlight it. I'd go back to, I'm sure everyone uses Seller Amp now, but I would go to Scoutify 2 and paste it in there and look at the Keepa on every single order. So that was giving me tons of reps on like, all right, were my buys actually doing what we thought? So that was the idea of like, okay, this is going to force them to at least do 5 a day. And okay, here's one more that works, that I think has worked really well, is this is sort of unrelated, but we bonus people we do a lot of different bonuses, but people want to buy the most leads. They know they're going to get paid a bigger bonus if they contribute the most leads that get bought. So we value restocks the same as we value a fresh lead. So that means the sourcers are sitting there on Sunday night, looking at the orders, waiting to like submit the first thing in their restock. So they are attuned to staring at the orders and letting them come in. And, we've tried restock reports and fancy complex stuff, but no, they literally just want to sit there, and they've done it better by sitting there, looking at orders and making their own individual sheets of what they think is a good restock. And then they come in on Monday, Tuesday, and then they submit those as leads. So what does that do? They're stuck on the orders. They're learning from their orders. They have an idea of like the stock. They're really getting a full thing of like what it means to be an Amazon buyer and seller, not just submit leads. So that's where we're at, and that's what they keep doing. And I think that's just going to continue to make them smarter. And man, I hate to keep running with this, but I swear when our company was in trouble a year and a half ago, like it's so cool looking back, being like, when you're in the dark, I'm meeting with like my COO who I just promoted. I just demoted a guy, and I'm just like, look, I want a room full of like genius sourcers. That's my dream. I want everybody like feeling so smart about this. They're thinking 3 levels ahead of the next Amazon seller. And we couldn't remember, this was when I wasn't buying a single product because we were so bad. I was like, this is what I want. And she really took that on. And we talked about like, that's our dream. And I just got a text from them at the conference, and I got something like, it's so cool to be around like 5 people that are as goal driven as me. And like, so everybody's got this goal driven, like spirit of healthy debate on the leads, like getting better mentality. And it like manifested. It's like, that's what we have now. It's so cool to look back.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I feel like, yeah, you bring up a really good point, because I've definitely like struggled with this. It's always just like, oh, this is a good lead, but they're like, oh, this is good, but they never know how it turns out. Because there are a lot of good leads that like I end up losing money on because other people get on it, or who knows what happens. But like they would never know that. But sometimes it's really apparent looking back after you take the loss. You're like, shit, like I missed that. Like I should have caught that. Like this is what happened.
Yeah, nobody wants to see their lead show up in the order review that's like, we bought this one we bought so many times is like a brand new shoe variation. It's like $140 and the rest of them sell for $60. And like it just immediately drops. We did that so many times before we learned. And the other one was, buying into rising offers. Like, come on, like the offers are, it took me until like last year to finally like get that where my whole company understood that, because I didn't have any systems in place. I was just teaching from like, this is what's a good lead. This is what's a good lead. Like these systems cause them to naturally catch those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we got some. What do we got here? 3 goats. What's going on? Thanks for coming.
He just DM'd me. So we did goal cards in Arbitrage Empire. I don't think he's in anymore, but he did a goal card. Sadek, how many months ago? Maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I want to do 100,000 in sales in August, and he just sent the picture of the goal card, and he had 100,000 sales in August.
Wow, that is so funny, because I did a goal card. I don't know where the hell it is, and it was just like, I want to move out of where we live. Last month we got a brand new place, and it's like absolutely amazing. We'll see if the other ones come true, but so crazy. Awesome. I wanted to do by December, and we're at the end of August.
I'm such a believer. Put it out there, connect, get emotionally attached to it, and the universe helps you out.
How to find sales online? Is there an app?
You guys want to take this one? Because you know the more recent apps probably than me.
Yeah, so you could find anything. Like, so a good one probably this weekend is going to be like Rakuten. They usually have hot deals, top cash back. Stores that are offering like insane amounts of cash back, they usually have a lot of deals going on as well. Emails, probably the best way. Just sign up for, I don't know, all the different newsletters. Chris Grant, he has something called like Sales Gazer. That's free. It's basically just like an inbox full of sales. So you could do that and just look around the internet. I've found lately crazy just scrolling Instagram and Facebook, like getting cookied on all the sites I'm normally going to, like getting coupon codes or like, hey, this sale is going on. It's kind of scary, but like it works really well for the business right now. So, I mean, I feel like those are definitely some things you could do.
Yeah, the only one I'd add is networking.
Yeah, networking.
It's always good to have a good network, because those people. So I can think of like last year when we did back to school, there was like a group of us, and somebody would like post a random coupon that they found because they were, just searching randomly and found it. and then the rest of us had no idea it existed because we didn't take the time out to, I mean, when you've only got like so much time, it's best to like be amongst other people who also have time, so you guys can like divide and conquer essentially. So that way you can focus on whatever you're best at. So like if you know that you're good at sourcing, say Nike, for example, or like certain websites like Nike.com or Kohl's or Macy's or whatever, then you can focus on that. And then okay, I can ask John, hey John, I need you to help me with the beauty section, and then we can trade ideas, and he probably knows beauty better than I do because I'm good at whatever category, and that way you can like learn from them, and you're going to find value in whatever they provide, because you're probably not going to be the one focused on that one at that point in time. So like last year when we did the back to school, there's tons of coupons dropped in there because at that point in time I wasn't actually like super big into Nike, and they kind of helped introduce it to me, and then I obviously took that and ran with it.
I had my biggest distributor, so we're mostly online arbitrage. I always say like, that's our engine. I don't even care how good the wholesale distributor deals get. That's not our primary. We're happy to get them, but we have our primary at least 3-4 million in revenue from online arbitrage. But we've had a lot of luck this year in getting some pretty good distributor sheets, and that came from networking. And like people, actually, I was just having a conversation with a student, Renee, that was just like, it's so cool that you did coaching as well as this. And I was like, to be honest, 4 years of arbitrage ops, arbitrage empire, the amount of money I made from that is just really, I hate to say it's negligible compared to the amount of time and effort it takes to coach. Coaching is an extremely high bandwidth, heart to heart, like activity that takes a lot out of you. And I love to, this is what I say lately to try to work myself through this. Like, I like to teach. Do I want to be a teacher? Think of all the stuff that teachers have to go through. But where I'm going with this is, I wouldn't even say my coaching, like my business made way more than my coaching. And I always want to just do my business. But the coaching got me on the map on Instagram and got me networking with people like you. And that's how I got an incredible distributor deal this year, where like I helped out another big seller with something and he helped me out. I'm like, this is the best distributor I've seen in 2 years. So like networking is 100% going to help you. And just, if you guys are just starting up, like that doesn't mean just go like, ask for stuff. It's get yourself out there. People are super interested in people that are working hard and trying their best. It is so fun to watch somebody. You keep hearing me talk about this girl, Renee. Like, I don't need any money from Renee. I will coach her the rest of her life if she wants, because it's so fun to watch her take a piece of information and put into action. So if you can be that person that is listening to all John's stuff and putting it into action, like he's going to want to help you. It's just awesome to see. And then that's how you like at least get started, maybe get noticed, post a little bit, and just provide as much value as you can to people, help other people out. And it always ends up coming back one way or another.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like I get approached all the time, like, hey, it's always just like, do you want to share leads? Or, hey, if I send you one, will you send me one? Like, nah, like that's not how it works. Like this person I'm sharing leads with now, we've been like friendly for like the last year or whatever. I'm just like, dude, like you got to buy this. Like this is kind of crazy. He's like, all right, thanks or whatever. And then I sent him like 2 or 3 more, just because like I don't know. I think there was like some hard limits I couldn't get around. So I was like, oh, like these are good. And he's like, we should just like exchange like every day, like just throw whatever's in there. And I was like, that's how it works. It's not, we don't have this like, I feel like some people think like there's like this contract. You're like, oh, this like, it's like, no, like you're just a normal human being, like trying to be nice and not expecting anything from it.
Just
Like,
be natural. Make it natural. Don't be unnatural and be like upfront about everything. Be like, can I have leads? Like, can I have distributors? Like, it doesn't work that way. Like,
I think I got one today. I think I got a DM today. I got drunk elephant items. Want to share products? Really good pricing. Like,
I learned the hard way too. Like,
natural.
someone sent me one, and I was like, oh, like thanks or whatever, and I bought it, and then my store got like ransacked, and I was like, dang, like oh crap, like I didn't even like think that through. So I was just like, I'm very like cautious about that. because I knew that person's store because they were on the listing, and I'm like, never again. Like, unbelievable.
Wow.
Talk some more mindset after the KFI.
Didn't I already talk about that?
I don't know what is the KFI.
Maybe he meant KPIs.
Oh, KPIs. Oh yeah, we did cover the KPIs.
Who already knows the technical? Who is this? They're not in. I don't know you. Just kidding.
Outside of wholesale, what is the best strategy for test buying when you find what seems to be a great product because of a sale, but then you can't get the same item at the same price a month later?
Yeah, that's pretty common. I mean, you're always expecting like you're never going to get this product again half the time. Like you still test buy and hope. But I mean, it's pretty simple. I think when we say restocks, our people literally look at what's sold. So yeah, the test buy worked. And then they see what store they bought it from, see it's there again. And then if it's not, they like Google, they like look for other stores with it. That's basically all we do. And if you can't get it, that's that. And over time, you get a little more confident in buying, not having to test buy. You can buy a little more upfront. But no matter how confident you get with the upfront buying, like your own data is always the best. So there's always some level of test buying. You can never. That's just the game.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I always get crazy when people are like, "Yeah, just I don't test buy anymore. Like I just go." I'm like, "Good for you, dude," because like I don't know how you're doing that on some of these listings. But yeah, I think it's always the same thing. Like I feel like too, like that's not probably if your team was like, "Oh, one of the reasons we want to buy this is it's on sale," for you'd be like, "That's not a good reason." Like that's not a reason to load up on this, like kind of thing. If you never bought it, I feel like. What else we got? What is your take on the 3 Colts taking over Inventory Labs?
I have no idea. I will never know any like current event on Amazon.
I don't know. Are they taking over? I don't know. They're taking
What's
over.
3 Colts?
They bought, I think, Tactical Arbitrage, and they bought Scout IQ. I think they just like accumulate software.
Let me go on a little. I'll go on a little rant about. I don't know who 3 Colts.
Yeah, why is that? Why don't you pay attention to that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm big on focus. I don't pay attention to competitors. I don't look what anybody's doing. Like, and I think that actually is a huge advantage because we build the way we think about products and the way that we buy like on our own. So how can anybody replicate that? Like, I'm not looking at what other people are doing. If you want to talk mindset, sorry for like being a little rude to the guy that wanted me to talk mindset. Like the best people at anything, they're creating, they're not competing. Hormozy's not competing with anybody. There's nobody, and he's not looking at competitors to see what he does. He's literally just like, all right, what's the next step? What's the next step? And he was doing that even when he was at the bottom with competitors. There's no way he was like always looking at competitors. I don't know. I don't know Hormozy, but I just, you can just see he's so far ahead because he's just always creating. So that's why I don't pay that much attention to stuff, because every day it's like, okay, we set a goal. This is, I guess this is semi mindset, semi like routine, but this is how I look at my day for any sort of business. I come up with my major goal. So it's in Amazon. I want to do $100,000 in sales a month or something. So that's my goal. I need 3 process goals. I need 3 processes that I will do every single day. That's going to get me closer to that goal. If I do these every day, there's no possibility I won't get closer. So that's source and set the bar low. Like when you're starting a gym routine and you want to lose 30 pounds, if you want to set these goals, it's like, get to the gym and do 15 minutes of bike and then like recap your day and pat yourself on the back. That's your process goal. If you do that every day, what will most likely happen is you will end up doing more, or you'll do the bare minimum and you will get closer to your goal. So when I think of that in business, if my goal is I want 100,000 in sales, I break it down to like, let's say I want an hour and a half sourcing every day, 30 minutes of networking, an hour and a half of admin on my store. That's my process goals that I do every single day. Well, if I wake up, knock those things out by 9 a.m., I can be done with my day if I want to. Like if I'm not feeling it, I can be done with my day. What usually happens is I will keep moving on that. But those are the only 3 things I need to do to hit 100,000. I don't need to get the best idea of sourcing. I don't need to know about 3 cults. I don't need to know any of that stuff. So people spend so many resources gathering data on things they don't need at all. Amazon is literally who can source more and develop and see more patterns, and like or who can teach their employees to source more and source with more inspiration and put in better hours and think to the next level. Like, okay, so if I'm on the next level, it's like I need to spend an hour and a half or get a +1. I'll tell you my actual ones right now because I'm working on another company. It's right now it's like a 6-guy sales team. It's going to be 10 soon. And one of my process goals is get a +1 with my sales team. So that's either an hour of sales training with them, or it's just like providing them a resource they need, like that can help them. And then it's 1 hour of admin on my business, and then it's a success log. So it's like, this is another amazing thing about being a business owner, and I think you guys will feel me here. Like, so often, you wake up early, you might crush the morning, gets around 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., and you're like, what did I even do today? I'm sort of a failure. Like, I didn't do anything. And if you did the success log, which is like, what are 3 things I did well today? You're like, holy shit. At 8 o'clock, I moved this forward. And then at 9 o'clock, I did this. I was a success before noon. And because I just feel bad at 2 to 5 p.m. because it's the end of the day and like my mood is a little lower, I judge the entire day negatively. And that is not healthy. That's not what you want. You want to judge your day for what your day was. So we judge how good, and this in my students in the past few months, one guy, Alex, he did this for like a month or 2, and he kept pointing it out. Like, he was like, I know this is an issue. Like, I'm always down on myself. And I'm like, dude, start writing down exactly what you did. And he started, what it does is it starts to build your self-confidence big time. You start to realize you can confide in yourself every single day. You're like, wow, every day I'm moving stuff forward. So you start to get happier and better and more productive, and you start to get momentum. And momentum really is a real thing in business. And stop cutting your momentum short by just like randomly telling yourself like, I did like okay today, when it's not true. And some days I can feel great all day and I do the success log and I'm like, wow, that was actually just as good of a day as the one before where I felt like shit the whole time. Like, I moved forward the same amount. So that's a super interesting one. I don't remember what the original question was, but
I mean, I don't know if you heard it, but Hermosi recently did like a podcast. It was one of his recent ones. And basically it's like, when people are like, oh, I can't stand this, he's like, you're standing it. Like, you are, right? Like, you're still alive. Like, or like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, well, you've been doing it. So like, what's the issue? Or like, there's another one that was like, oh, rain is bad. And he's like, not if you need like crops watered, or like, there's a drought. It's just like all this stuff. And like, I was kind of getting down on myself earlier because I had like made some bad purchases, and I was like, dude, like, how, like, there's no reason for this or whatever. I just like, but you made like so many good ones. Like, you work for yourself, like you quit your job, you just moved into a nice place, and it's just like, you know what? This has happened before. It's just like a bump in the road, and it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My current coach, Michael, is like big on relentless solution focus. It's a book and pretty simple. It's like, you can use that as an example. You start feeling down about something. We're human. That's normal. You give yourself 1 minute generally 1 minute. Obviously, some things are harder than others, to just try to process it, try to like feel bad, or try to like logically talk to yourself through it. 1 minute. And then by the end of the minute, you should be looking for a +1. So you're looking for something that is putting you in the right direction. So if it's, oh, I bought a bad product, whatever, like if it really hurts you, it might literally be, I need to get out of this room and go do some push-ups. Because it's really hard to think of the solution when you're focused on the problem. You really want to get out of the problem and get into a good state, into your normal productive state. And then you're looking at your problems super black and white. You're like, okay, I bought a bad product. I'm in Amazon. That's what happens. What's my solution? Oh, there's either no solution here, I'm doing great, or like, I'll learn about this. So that's RSF, relentless solution focus. Everything is just like, get to that happier state, come up with the solution. And I'm starting to get scared at, how I almost scared, like how I react in not only my business life, but my personal life these days, because I'm so solution focused. I just like, I've seen a lot of things personally, and that's supposed to set me back for months. And by the way, in business, when you do lose your first $5,000 or $100 or whatever, it does hurt. Like it does make you like, and it might put you on your ass for a month before you've gotten these techniques. But business doesn't get harder, but you get better. But business doesn't get easier, but you get better. Like that 1 month can become 1 minute in a couple years. Like you literally bounce back so easily and can look at things black and white. So you're gonna have to take some punches, but developing that relentless solution focus. In my personal and business life, I'm a little scared sometimes where I'm just like, all right, well, I can just move on. This is the solution to that. Something that would normally set me back like very far.
Yeah, I remember like when I first started doing OA, like it's not as bad with books, but like when I lost money on those first couple of products, I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know how I'm gonna do, like it's over. Now
Because
it's
the
like
world.
all the time, it's just like, oh, whatever, it's just an ASIN. Like I have like 90% of the other ASINs making money, like that's fine. Like it's just how it is.
I remember mine. I lost like Amazon, just like it was my first Christmas. I sent in all these toys. I was excited. They just like lost them all. Just like $1,200 worth of stuff. And by the way, they appeared back like a year and a half later. I'm like, what the hell? PJ Masks. I'm like, these just came back. But at the time, I reached out to Watch Me Amazon, the wholesale guy.
Yeah.
I followed him and Reezy. And I'm like, dude, what do I do about this? He's like, take the L. He's just like, take the L, move on. I'm like, right. Like, that's all I got to do. Sometimes you just got to take the L. Nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with returns. People always freak out about returns. I'm just like, it is what it is. Like,
oh yeah,
it's damaged. Okay, sell the next product. That's fine.
Your energy is really like if you dedicate energy to negative stuff like that, it's gonna suck up your day. And to be good at business, you just gotta be dedicated. You just gotta be putting your energy to the positive, to the solutions all the time. Anything else is a distraction. Even great information, you got to be careful with information. Heard me talk about this. You got to be focused. So that's why I say look at one person, look at one community, have that be your primary information source, and then you are the primary executor. And say you can also maybe have a mindset person you follow, somebody that you like. Only follow one. Only really focus on one. Because if you listen to 10, listen to podcasts. Some people are better than others at juggling this, but it's a trap. If you listen to, I got trapped in this like a few months ago. I've gotten too many good voices around me in my circle that I'm trying to listen to them all. And I'm stressed all day. I'm trying to figure out why. It's because I'm trying to put into motion 100 different great ideas. So I was in too many coaching programs, too many masterminds, and I cut them all and went to one coach. And that's all I listen to now. And that solved like a ton of my problems when I realized that was an issue a few months ago.
I think that is huge because I did that when I first started doing OA. It was just like, oh, like I gotta sell apparel. That's what everyone's doing. And then some other person would come along, I was like, nah, groceries where it's at. I'm like, oh, I gotta do grocery. Or like, oh, you should never shop here. Or everyone and it's just like you're running around in circles. But if you would just like you said before, if you just went to the website every day for 30 days and just like looked up all those products, you'd be like, okay, there's a bunch of profit here. But it's like going there every day and kind of like staying focused. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I feel like the business is getting like much stronger, much quicker because it's like, no, like this is the new focus. Like you're wasting a ton of time, like doing all this stuff. And like you just need to focus and like stop worrying about all this. And that's kind of what 75 Hard taught me. It was like the app, it's like, you do these 6 things, 7 things, whatever it is, or you fail. Like, and that was the day. It's like, okay, like, how do I drink the water? Oh, crap. Like, I got to read 10 pages, or, like, I have this call. So I either have to walk before or, like, right after this, or, like, all this stuff. And, like, that's the day. And it was like, nothing else mattered, really. It was just like, yeah, like, got to do all this stuff. And, like, surprise, like, the business still ran, like, it ran better. And I was dedicating like 3 hours that I didn't have to do completing all the 75 hard stuff.
Was it, man? I've all heard some things about 75 hard. I'd love to hear more. Like, so it rubs me the wrong way at first where I'm like, I can't miss one of these things because generally perfection is an issue because you want to just be good. But at the same time, I'm sure you built crazy self-confidence, like being able to count on yourself every day, right? You're like, I literally hit these every day. I am this person.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And it's more like, it's not, I think, it's not always perfect because there is a lot of like bad workouts that like, because you're
No, but
working
you
out
did.
7 days a week.
But that doesn't
So,
matter, right? You have to get
yeah,
the workout in. That's what I was saying about the process goals.
yeah.
Like set them small, but you did it, and I'm sure you built a lot of confidence through the process.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's like kind of what it's all about. And it's like, I think a lot of the times too with 75 hard, especially, it's like out of 75 days, like you're not going to feel like doing a couple of those things. Like, one of the days or not every day, but it's just like kind of brutal. But yeah, it just makes you think. I think it also really shows you how much time you really have and kind of how much time you waste. And almost like how there's just something so like we were talking about, it's simple. Like it's an app that's literally like you check it off. Like you take a picture, you upload the picture. Like so simple. That's all it is. It's not like, oh, you gotta like drink all this green juice and make this, or it's like, no, like just eat clean, like drink water, read a book, work out twice, don't drink alcohol. Like that's the thing. And it's like, wow, when you're just focused on that, it's like, wow, like I thought this would be really hard, but it's really not that hard.
Well, I think your next challenge for your viewers is literally make a 75 hard for Amazon, give them
Yeah.
6 things, source this many hours a day, and I would love to see who completes it and what their sales are at. I can guarantee you they'll like double, triple their sales.
I actually thought about doing that, and I have like kind of like a rough outline of
Dude, you
what it
should
might
definitely.
be. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking about doing something like that because like that's exactly what it is, and I think that it's like Hermosi always talks about. It's like it's boring. It's boring. It's going to the site every day, looking for a sale every day. It's not this like, and I get why people think like that because it's like I feel like social media is like a blessing and a curse in terms like that's like kind of we're here like we met at a conference like we DM like that's awesome but like I almost if I could go back in time I'd probably blow up my Amazon store and get that situated and then like talk about how I got everything situated because like documenting it's cool and everything. I'm sure I'll be happy like years from now when I can see that, but it also is a huge time suck and kind of like distraction.
Well, you got some thinking to do then. Although I'm sure if the network benefits haven't paid yet, I'm sure they will because you're
Oh,
out there.
they've paid so
Everybody
much.
knows you, so it's like it, and that just takes one deal half the time. It's like, oh well,
Oh
all
yeah.
that time I spent was actually worth it. It's just a matter
Oh,
of time.
definitely for sure. And like, yeah, it's just one of those things. What else we got here? Speaking of damage returns, how does Amazon handle a product where the packaging has damage and can't be put back in FBA? Do they send it back to the seller?
Yep, exactly. I mean, you got to go to your settings and make sure it's not on dispose, but it should come back to you. And what we do, so that's pretty time consuming to handle those at some scale. And that's another thing, like it's not a high value activity. You're not making a ton of money, receiving your returns and putting it back in. By the way, half the time, 50% of the time, different for different categories, that inventory is perfectly fine. And you should send it back in. And as you scale, that's actually really important to send it back in, or you're gonna that's gonna truly come off your bottom line. So you have a tough balancing act when you're starting here to decide how much time to dedicate to these, we call them removals. And early on, I remember deciding, I tried the eBay store at home and I'm like, I'm spending way too much time on eBay and trying to send these removals when I could just go to the store and in one day make what I'm making over like multiple weeks doing this. So I remember that nixing the eBay store. and then finding somebody in my area that sells on consignment. So someone that will do an eBay store for you, and they'll take like a 30% cut of the profit. So it's out of your hands. Right now, I actually have a warehouse that we struck a deal, which basically said, look, you do this complex activity for me, which is receive removals, send some back in, sell some on eBay, some sell in liquidations. Like, that's not your favorite work, but he offered to do it. And I said, and he gave me a pretty good cut of the eBay too. But what I have to do is give him my biggest wholesale deals. So it was kind of like a nice trade-off where you're earmarked to get my big wholesale deals, where prep centers love wholesale deals. They're just slapping labels on and it's out the door, and they're making $500 or something. So they do that for me, and then I earmark my wholesale stuff to them.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. Returns are definitely, it's one of those like hard things to deal with. I'm working with someone who's kind of doing that, but it's still a headache to kind of deal with like the eBay angle and like what's getting put on there. Like, for example, today, like I just got the invoice. It's like, how's this so much money? And like there's like they listed like 55 things, and like some of that stuff like shouldn't have been listed. It's not worth listing. Like there's just so many like little nuances to it where it's just like
they're charging you for listing.
Yeah, so they charge for the listing. They
I would
charge
go all
for
consignment.
listing, and then they will. That's all you pay for, and then they'll ship it out as people buy it.
I would switch it to a consignment model where they're only getting a cut of what sells, because otherwise they're incentivized to just list completely randomly. Like,
and that's kind of what has happened.
Yeah.
And I kind of today just went back into the settings. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have this all sent back to me. I don't get that many returns at the moment, and I'm just like, you know what? I'll deal with it, or like find someone like local to kind of just liquidate it to, or find someone for consignment. But I was just like, it sounds like it's one of those things. It sounded like a great idea. It's like, oh yeah, like all this stuff that I hate dealing with just gonna go somewhere. And then you start paying some invoices. You're like, wait a second.
No, that was a tough one. I tried multiple warehouses to try to handle stuff for me, and I lost so much inventory, just them stockpiling it and just like disappearing. Finally landed on a friend. I could DM you and see if he's still doing that deal. I think he might have built out some of his warehouse to handle these type of removals for like a lot of customers. So
that'd be awesome. Yeah, because I'm kind of really looking for like a different solution. Just kind of a couple bumps in the road with this company, and it's just like, it's like you're already losing money on this stuff, and then to pay like an exorbitant amount for listing or this other kind of stuff, it's just like,
I mean, look, leverage your network, man. He's a prep center. He's gonna want to do business with you. You know, 100 potential clients of his. He'll probably do it for a really good deal. So
that is true.
No promises, but and like that's a tough one. It's tough if you want to try to manage it down to the last piece of inventory. I think we're starting to do it more, but we just did it on trust for a little bit because like it's just so much to manage. We have a lot of removals. Like, again, 2022, we were like huge and just doing dumb stuff. So we had so much stuff coming out. So managing it was just like, dude, do your best. I flew out there a couple times, like just saw all the stuff piling up, and it's like you're doing a better job than I would. So
how do you handle that? Like, kind of like, I know you're big on like leakage and kind of like tracking that.
I wish I knew how we track leakage. I have KPIs on like every month I count my inventory. So what that means is in QuickBooks, advanced sellers should probably be using QuickBooks. New sellers, you can probably get away without it for a little bit. QuickBooks every month, you'll see all your credit card spend in QuickBooks into inventory. So your inventory will go up, and then you're going to book a cost of goods sold entry to reduce it. So then you have, say your QuickBooks says 650,000 in inventory. Well, my inventory lab says like 500,000. But then what about the inventory we just bought that's in transit? What about the inventory sitting at this warehouse? What about this? So we count it. We ask the prep centers, hey, and we look at our average cost value. So say these are generally $50 a pop. You got how many units you got in there? And we actually got more sophisticated now with tracking numbers and stuff. But first, it was just approximately how many units you got in your warehouse. Okay, you got 200, you got 500. All right, that's approximately $15,000 worth of inventory. We add it to our inventory lab number. So we get to 620,000. Well, QuickBooks said 650,000. So we shrunk, we leaked $30,000 worth of inventory somewhere. That was happening all the time. And so I at least know that we're leaking. Now, how we actually found that leakage, I don't know if we ever did find lots of leakage. There's also issues with calculating cost of goods sold on Inventory Lab. It's a whole accounting problem.
Yeah.
Amazon is not easy to know exactly what you're making. This was the rant I wanted to go on, but I didn't end up going on. Accounting systems, I'm a former CPA. Accounting systems are incentivized to make you feel like you're making more money. So obviously, Inventory Lab doesn't say, hey, you should be doing these inventory counts to true up your inventory. Like, no, that's for an accountant to figure out. So what most people do is they go all year without doing any of this, and their accountant's like, you made half as much as you think you made. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's my thing on accounting systems. Like, it's like, shit, Romer's making GoToLister, and he'll probably get more accounting tools. And we talked it through. He's like, yeah, it sucks. Like, it's like you want to give accurate, but you have Seller Board and Inventory Lab like showing the rosy picture potentially. I don't really know too much about Seller Board yet, but I know Inventory Lab, it's a pretty rosy picture.
Yeah.
How do you compete with that? A new seller, they're like, oh, I made 20 grand here. What the hell? I only made 10 grand. I'm just going to go with Inventory Lab. This sounds way better.
Yeah. One thing you could do, it's very eye-opening. If you look at, let's just say you look at what your sales and profit is in, let's just say August, for what you did in August, look at that in October, and that number will be much lower, the profit number, because returns come in or weird stuff happens, and that number like shrinks more than what you think it would be. But yeah, the accounting aspect too. Well, I think it's almost interesting too. Like I've always said this to people, like, why does Amazon do like the orange bars, right?
Yeah.
It's because like if they showed like, oh, you just made $5 today, like, not that exciting. But if it showed
100%.
you, or $1,000 and you have like 20 grand in sales, you're like, it's not like what's going on here. Like, but no, they show you all the sales, they don't take out the returns, and it's like, ooh, they probably never envisioned people sharing these on social media, but
of course they did. They love it. They love us bringing in people and people getting a little too excited. And you got to try to give them the real picture, because no, that's exactly what they want. They want people selling at break even. They want happy customers. They don't care about sellers within reason.
Yeah, for sure.
They
we're
don't
coming up on it. Where do you think the future is on Amazon? And do you have any like parting words or advice for people?
Future of Amazon. Again, I don't really think that far. I just look at my KPIs. So if I start looking at my numbers and the margins start going down and down and down, well, we're just going to buy a little bit less and try to buy better leads. So the beauty of your Amazon store is you can always operate. It is so simple to operate a different size. Like, you don't have to be a $10 million store. You don't have any equipment. You don't even have a warehouse. You don't have anything. So you can literally go from 10 million to 1 million in like 2 months if you want to. So people with businesses that are not spoiled, that had to buy like equipment and leases and had to like hope they're in the right industry, you can pivot your business very quickly. So 2022 got harder for us, and that's exactly what we did. We're like, we got to downsize. The math is simple. If I buy a $50 Air Force One, it is going to make me money. It's going to sell for $90 or more. Like, there's 9 out of 10 chance here. So if we're only buying stuff with that ROI requirement, we are going to make money. So it doesn't matter the future of Amazon. You just got to look at your numbers. And I do think the future is bright. I don't see anybody like messing this up. If anything, there's business cycles. Larry from Watch Me Amazon, I think when I was kind of down in the dumps earlier this year, like, why are my profits not bigger? And I was going on, I'm human too. It's like, and is it saturated? Is Amazon trying to get me to break even? I was going through that whole thing. He was like, I've been in this for 12 years. Like, I've seen like 5 seasons of this. I've seen it really profitable. I've broken even. I've like that's a real business. It's over multiple years with different seasons. You can't predict everything. And he's mega profitable this year, I'm pretty sure. And so that's what I would say. It's just whatever it does, there's money to be made. if the economy tanks, there's liquidations everywhere. You can become the person that freaking, what Marshalls does. They buy up liquidations of great brands. Like there's always money to be made. So it doesn't really need to be your concern what Amazon does. But with that in mind, Amazon is the king still.
Yeah.
So I ride the king. I don't need to get into the blue ocean. Although with other projects, I might be looking for blue ocean. But yeah, Amazon's looking good to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. And yeah, it is crazy because I'm doing it, and you're like totally right. Like you could change your business in a second. It's not like I used to run a book business, and like to just clean out that warehouse, get rid of all the it was a process. Now it's like, well, I'm just gonna drop the price, like everything's on Amazon, like this isn't a big deal. I don't have a lease or anything. But yeah, thanks so much for being here. Where do you want people to follow you?
Soros Empire on Instagram and Twitter is good. I'm not posting that much lately because I'm just like deep into projects. But yeah, DMs are always open. I'm not that big yet. So if you're working hard, if you're gonna DM me and ask me for stuff, you're just not gonna get an answer. It's so obvious when you guys have a good question, like you're actually looking at stuff. But don't be afraid to DM me. Mindset, other businesses, Amazon. I like talking about all of it. So
cool deal. I'll drop the links are below if you want to follow him. I also dropped a link to your circle thing. So yeah, thanks for being here, and we will see you guys next week.
Cool.
Peace.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Michaela.